Hi, I'm State Senator Joe Markley from Southington. I'm standing outside the Senate chamber where we just voted on a budget adjustment involving the current year's budget. That's the fiscal year that's coming to an end in June. Because of the low receipts, which you've heard me talk about before, every month we're further behind, and the governor makes decisions in the budget, and from time to time the legislature comes in and makes their own changes, sometimes undoing the governor's decisions and sometimes cutting other things. This is what the governor calls the ongoing fiscal crisis. I would call it the result of 25 years of bad fiscal policy in the state of Connecticut, spending more than we can afford and taxing instead of cutting back when the time comes. In this case, after long negotiation, a package was put together to reduce spending in the current year by $220 million. That was done with some cuts across the board, some specific reductions. I was one of 3 votes against this package. Even though I believe that the budget has to be cut, you've certainly heard me say that for as long as I've been making these tapes. My feeling is that this was a baby step, but not a sufficient step for the situation that we're in. There really was no structural reform in it. A lot of it was sweeping accounts and just essentially taking the change out of the sofa to try to change the bill, to pay the bill. It's going to get us through the end of this fiscal year. It will not address the problems next year, which are looking like $1 billion or more. And my suspicion is that the legislature is going to go home without doing anything about those problems. We're behind the curve on addressing our addiction to spending. And I said in my remarks before the vote, this is why I came here to the legislature, because I could see a moment of reckoning coming. And I believe that what is needed isn't a cold heart to vote against things that people need, but a long-range plan to start to address the unsustainable cost of state employees, of pensions, of benefits, of the size of the bureaucracy, the number of middle managers, many things that we simply have refused to address, and that to this moment I feel we are still not addressing. And again, I don't take any pleasure in even discussing the possibility of eliminating positions and having people lose their jobs. We're all people and we're all worthy of sympathy. But the state of Connecticut as a whole can't continue this way, or will be in an irrecoverable fiscal crisis. I want to say something else, because the governor was kind of giving me a hard time this week about the busway, or what's now known as Connecticut Fast Track. He did a kind of a victory lap of it and talked about the ridership. The funny thing about it is the ridership is just about what they projected it was going to be. And the operating loss is actually somewhat more than they're projecting it to be. It was almost $20 million this year. That's what they're expecting they're going to lose every year operating the busway. They said this year the loss was because of unanticipated expenses of snow removal. I'd say there's been few winters where I've seen fewer snow removal expenses than this one. So it's possible that the long-rumored excessive cost of snow removal is in fact coming true. But my point with the busway is the point with the budget, which is there's things we simply can't afford to do. It almost doesn't matter whether it's a good idea or a bad idea if you can't afford it. And in my opinion, to this day, $600 million for a 9-mile busway is a bad idea. But it's that kind of choice we're going to have to weigh if we're going to get out of our state's fiscal crisis. So we're here in session until May 4th, and I expect I will be back to you next week with another update. Until then, I'm State Senator Joe Markley. Thank you for your attention.